What is the China thing? You're saying China got caught with their hand in the cookie jar?
Oh, yeah. That's another good thing. It'd be nice if Biden would mention this to Xi when they're sitting down, which they are. But they called it spamouflage, or I think it had a code name of Dragon Bridge. And the idea was that the Chinese Communist Party, through their Ministry of Public Security, is running a large-scale disinformation campaign. And part of it is targeted at Chinese dissidents. So part of it's targeted here in the States at Chinese journalists and activists and others who speak out against Xi and the regime. And so the idea being is that they basically hunt these people down online. They troll them. They overwhelm their message by using thousands and thousands of accounts that they've set up in these farms. Most of this is run out of Beijing. And the idea being they're just basically either trying to push down the activist voice, right, and create a better, more positive narrative for Xi, or in some cases they're actually trying to find them, right, and influence them directly. And so there was that story about New York City, that these secret police stations that the Ministry of Public Security, the Chinese Communist Party's Ministry of Public Security, was running here in the States, and still continue to run, frankly. But they had a couple of their MPS agents here in New York, and part of what they were doing was dealing directly with activists, basically threatening them, harassing them, and trying to, again, shut them up. They've done other things too. I mean, they were involved in spreading messages related to the George Floyd protests. So they've got evidence, and this is a report that who did this? CNN, I think, put this together after studying a vast amount of documentation, right, and information that was FOIA'd and brought out from a variety of places, and also from social media sites that pulled together their own research. So George Floyd, protests, and then the second year of that, they're still promoting it, and the idea is they're pushing out narratives that say, America is a completely racist society, and democracy doesn't work, and that's exactly what you would expect them to do, but it's on a scale that I don't think we understood completely, right? And the U.S. government has just come out basically and felt like they had, and I think Meta was also involved in the research, and they've come out and talked about it and said, yeah, this is a problem. Now, whether Biden talks to him about that or not, I don't know. But the other thing they do is that they came out and they identified, but we talked about this before, is the Chinese regime using this disinformation campaign, this spamouflage or whatever it is. Some of the specific examples where they went after a Texas-based rare earths processing facility, right? So basically working to shut that down, essentially, right? To get the voices in the community against this. And how do they do that? Well, they promote, they sponsor, they encourage environmental groups and activist groups, right? And so, it's not as if, again, it's not as if people want to make a direct connection and say, are you telling me that Greenpeace is taking money from the CCP? And no, it's more sophisticated than that, right? But they are doing that. They are promoting these environmental activist groups to basically push that message that mining's bad, right? You don't want to go after rare earth minerals because that's bad for the earth, right? And certainly not processing. And so, meanwhile, they have a fucking monopoly on the whole thing, right? But they've been doing that for years, right? And they know. And so what they realized relatively early on was even more so than going out and locking up mining rights overseas, right? If you're talking about, the Congo, you're talking about Australia or South America, for lithium, then even more important was impacting your main competitors' regulatory policies, right? And so they understood that if they can encourage, right, local and city councils, state governments, and the federal government to and they really focus on local and state because that's an easier lift, right? Changing federal policy can they probably got tired of the bureaucracy, but they understood that if they can do that to enact anti-mining regulations. No, you can't explore. No, it's going to take you 10 years to get a permit to explore for lithium, in Nevada or Idaho or wherever. That's right in line with their strategy to become the provider of rare earth and critical minerals, because they also understood they're smart enough. They've got a long vision here, and they look at the U.S., they look at Europe, and we're all self-righteously banging on about how it's all electric. We're nothing but electric. We're getting off this fossil fuels. So they look at that and go, great. Well, we're on top of that, right? We're going to be in charge of that market. So that's what they've been doing, and they go after these local governments, and they encourage through the spamouflage or whatever, and also again in supporting environmental groups to push this, right, and create this groundswell. And some guy in a city council is looking and going, "Oh yeah, I'm not approving that phosphate mining exercise, right? I'm not approving whatever." And you can't have agriculture really without phosphate for fertilizer, so that's a pretty important thing, but some city councilman, he's not going to sit there and go, well, I think this is probably, maybe sponsored by the CCP. And he just hears some environmentalists to come to the city council meetings and, protest or make an argument. And he thinks, yeah, I'm voting against it. Right? It's good for the earth. Now I get to feel good about myself too. So anyway, those are the sort of things that take place that, again, do most people think about that sort of shit? No, I don't think so, right? But it's what makes the world go round, right? Everything's interconnected. And so shit doesn't happen without a reason. So when you ask, are these protests sponsored? Who's paying for them? That's a great fucking question for journalists to dig into, right? If they were curious enough. I don't think they are. But it would make an interesting story, right? And if someone did that, yeah, maybe they, get an award. I don't know.
Well, at least it should be discussed to the point where it's a narrative where the general public is aware of it and Congress is aware, the general public is aware of it. So this is something that's on the table. You can't just openly say, we can't mine because of this. Environmental groups have said that. There should be some discussion like, hey, why are they saying that? What's funding that? And if you look at the funding, oh, look, it's tied to China. Oh, look, they're running cobalt mines in the Congo. Yeah. Oh, look, they're the ones who are doing all of these rare earth mineral mines. They have a monopoly on this business. They don't want us doing it for business reasons. Right. And then also, they are the providers of that. The more we buy electric, the more they sell these minerals.
Yeah, I mean they've got a lock on processing. It is but you have to admire the fact that they've thought this through. Right. And they kind of went soup to nuts. They the start of the process to the finish.